out how to fix it. So I'm sorry, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me fine.
That looks perfectly fine.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad.
Okay.
So we can give it another minute for Carrie and Sophie. I don't think Jerry's joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. How's everybody doing?
Very well.
I'm great.
Trying to stay warm
Mhm.
and dry.
Oh, yeah.
Today was a slushy mess. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed getting out there at 5:30 this morning to shovel so it wasn't heavy when I actually woke up. That was nice. I appreciated that, Mother Nature. Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't we get started? I think we have a quorum and we can if Carrie and Sophie join us later. So welcome everyone, welcome public. I'm going to call the Board of Health meeting to order, and we'll do roll call alphabetically. Sal?
Yeah.
Kevin?
Here.
Joan?
Here.
And Rick Lopez here. In terms of tonight's agenda, we have a couple minutes to up. Here's Sophie.
Hi, sorry I was running late.
That's okay. And Carrie.
So was I. Sorry about that. Arguing with my computer. Nice to see everybody.
Hey, Carrie. Hey, Sophie.
We just started.
Great.
In terms of,
Might as well add them to the roll call.
we'll add you to the roll call. Yes. In terms of tonight's agenda, we have minutes from a meeting way back in September, and then our last one last month. Town Council Ivor Fried has graciously agreed to come and talk to us about conflict of interest for a few minutes. We're then going to talk a little bit about this MBTA turnaround issue and how it relates to public health and what we are thinking of doing about it. We have a pest control update from the new company that we hired to help us manage our rodent issues. Annette Garcia is here to talk about shared services and sort of give us an update. We have a new proposed regulation we're going to just have a discussion on around feeding wildlife. And then we'll do our usual monthly report. We'll follow up with public comment if there is some, and then wrap up. So it looks like a pretty varied and robust agenda, and we'll get right to it. In terms of minutes, going back to September 12th, everyone got the minutes, and I don't know if there were any edits or suggestions at all. Yes, Kevin.
No.
I just had a question and a comment, and I'm not sure who can answer this, but I know one of them goes back to September. Were we doing the AI minutes back in September? Or was it live person minutes?
I think,
I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
I believe that we started around that time. But
Okay.
the thing is, Cassidy was here at that time, and I've just been able to gain access to email, so I can find out if we're doing it or not, or if we used AI in the past or not.
Okay, I don't think you have to go into that kind of detail a day. It was just kind of someone knew off the top of their head kind of question. The reason I bring it up is, and this is, maybe discussion for what the board for a later date, but a day when you mentioned it, that's how we were doing it. I forget if that was one or two meetings ago, and I made the comment that I didn't notice a big difference. Well, now that I look into it, I've noticed a big difference. And so I don't know how much we want to get into discussion about minutes and what they should look like and what should get detailed in them. Typically, minutes are kind of the facts of a meeting more so than the sentiment of every sentence that was uttered during that meeting. To that degree, this does seem to even lack a few of those. So every now and again, it'd be sprinkled in where a comment was made that seemed relative to the topic at hand that gets omitted by the AI, by all of us. When you read through these, you used to read through and you'd see your name popping up all over the place. And now it's like two names throughout the whole thing, and it's very matter of fact. So again, it's a comment. It's not really a concern. It might be something that we can discuss at a later meeting to see how much detail we want or don't want, or if there's a way that we can program AI to be a little bit more detailed than it's giving us. So that's the only comment I had on the minutes. Otherwise, they looked spot on.
Sounds good. We would work on it and add more detail and, mention the members' names more often.
Well, again, it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be a detailed report, right? People can go back and they can watch our meetings if they want the detailed report. There should be, here were the votes, here's the comments that were made that were relative to that vote or to that subject matter that was discussed. But it just seems to lack that second part. It seems to have the subject matter, but not some, what I would feel like would be relevant comments by board members. That's all.
Sounds good. We will work on that.
okay, good. So in terms of September 12th, I just had two minor edits. One was members not present. I think that was a meeting that Sal wasn't able to attend.
I was actually looking at that too, and I was trying to remember.
Yeah, well, I didn't see you in the roll call or any of the votes, so I figured,
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you weren't in members present. So by definition, if you're not a members present, you're a members not present. So
Yeah.
we just add Sal to members not present.
Sure.
And then in terms of others present, Bill Sullivan is misspelled B-I-L, not B-I-L-L. Other than that, it looked fine to me.
Okay.
So if there are no other changes, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from September 12th, 2024.
As amended.
Okay, Kevin second. Roll call. Oh, actually vote. Sal,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes,
and Rick, yes. In terms of the minutes from January 9th, 2025, the last meeting, any edits, comments, changes? Nope. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes from January 9th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Carrie second. Roll call. Sal,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Joan,
yes.
and Rick, yes. Okay. In terms of our next topic, conflict of interest, this actually was something that prompted me to do a little bit more thinking about it from a few meetings ago when during a meeting for a variance, a couple members said, well, I've had casual conversations, but I don't think it's a conflict and so forth. And I realized that I didn't know exactly what the process was in the town. In terms of when a member thinks an agenda item might be a conflict of interest for him or her, what should we do? And how should we act? And so in the Board of Pharmacy, which I also am on for the state, it's very clear what the expectations are. And there are a lot of conflicts of interest there because there are pharmacists from different retail pharmacies. And so when those pharmacies come up, there's a conflict. So I asked Ivor to come and just spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes, really not talking about specific situations. And hopefully you all have gotten the state ethics commission's training and have looked at that and done that. But I just wanted to kind of hear a little bit about Reading specific, what we should do and what paperwork we should fill out and so forth. So I'm going to turn it over to Ivor.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Lopez. Like he said, my name's Ivrea Freed. I'm town council. For those that I haven't met, hello. It's nice to meet you. Tonight, I'm going to give a very high level overview on kind of the two main areas of the conflict of interest law that you were talking about at your last meetings. What do you do when there is an appearance of a conflict of interest, or what do you do if there is an actual financial conflict of interest, and how should you approach that in Reading in particular? I'm not going to go into other areas of the conflict of interest law, if you have a second contract with the town, or if you're representing or acting as an agent or attorney for someone other than the town. So just understand that, my scope tonight of what I'm talking about is really narrow. And if you ever have any questions on the conflict of interest law in general, you can call me and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just wanted to preface my comments that I'm just looking at the two areas that you've talked about at your last meeting. All right, so can I share my screen? Let me see, yes. Okay. I have a very brief slideshow. Are you seeing my slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So like I said, I'm just going to cover primarily two sections of the conflict of interest law, section 19 and section 23B3. Section 19 is what we call an actual conflict. So if you have an actual financial conflict, you're probably most likely dealing with section 19 and the exemptions relative to section 19. If you have what we call a perceived conflict of interest, you're probably under section 23B3. So those are the two areas that we are going to address tonight. So we'll start with section 19. All right. So section 19 says that a municipal employee, which all board members are, cannot participate in a matter if you or a member of your immediate family has a financial interest in the matter before you, or if a prospective employer or a business organization of which you are an officer, trustee, or employee has a financial interest. You are precluded from participating. So these are what we call the actual conflicts. So my sister has applied for a permit in front of the Board of Health. It will impact her property value. She has a financial interest. I have an actual conflict in that situation. So immediate family member is a defined term, and that's really important to understand. It's your parents, your children, your siblings, your spouse, and your spouse's parents, children, and siblings. So those are the members of your immediate family. And what's really important to understand is that participation includes discussion. So it's not, I'm going to talk about this with, the whole board and then we're ready to vote and I'm going to abstain on the vote. No, if you participate in any part of the matter, if you discuss it, if you send an email about it, in your official capacity, you have participated and that is prohibited. So these are what we call the actual conflicts. All right, but there are a bunch of exceptions, or two exceptions to this rule. The first one is the 19B1 exception or exemption. They're referred to in both ways. And this is only available to appointed municipal officials, which Board of Health members are. So luckily you can take advantage of this provision of the law. And what this provision says is that if you disclose the facts related to your actual conflict to your appointing authority and receive in advance of participating, and that's important, it has to be in advance of participating, a determination that the interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect your services, then you can participate. So we see this a lot where maybe someone works for Verizon, for example, so that's their employer, and Verizon has applied for maybe in front of the planning board, they need, or the CPDC, they need some type of relief. The CPDC member could apply to their appointing authority for this exemption, and the select board could say, you know, we don't think it's that you're not going to change the way you act because of this application, and we'll allow you to participate. So for Board of Health, you know, we think about this, it's you know, you can always apply. It really depends on how significant the financial interest is, whether the select board will in fact grant the exemption. And in Reading, it's pretty rare that this happens. We don't see a ton of Section 19B1s, but it does come up every once in a while. So if there's a situation where you feel like you need to file this type of disclosure, you would submit it either to the chair of the select board, or you would submit it to Matt, who would make sure in his capacity as town manager, would make sure that it gets handled. These are pretty specific exemptions. So if you feel like you're triggering this and you want to participate, you should reach out to my office, and I'll talk about that at the end in a little bit more detail. It's always permitted to just not participate. So in the situation where we talked about before, if your sister is applying for relief in front of the Board of Health, you may just say, you know what, I'm not going to participate, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to file any disclosures. You just recuse yourself. But if you want to participate, this exemption is available to you.
Can I just comment there about, you know, if you make that decision to recuse yourself and not even apply, what we had talked about, Eva, in our pre-meeting was the idea that the best way to do that is for you to stop your video and mute yourself during that agenda item, so that you don't need to leave the meeting, the Zoom meeting, and then log back in. You could simply, you know, stop your video, mute, and then you're out of the discussion, and then you can come back on the next agenda item.
Yeah, the only caveat to that is if you're in an executive session, you would not enter. So in that case, you wouldn't be part of it. You wouldn't be able to hear. But as long as the portion of the meeting is open to the public, you could do that for sure. Or a day could move you. I don't know how it's structured here, if everyone is a participant or if there are panelists, however it's set up. But if it's set up in a panelist mode, a day could move the Board of Health member into like the public section of the Zoom and then back into the panelist section when the meeting starts. It all depends on how a day sets it up, but either option is fine from an ethics standpoint. All right.
Just to follow up on that, Avery, would that apply in a live meeting? I understand on a Zoom it would, but in a live meeting, typically in the past, we've asked the person to step out of the room, more so just from a standpoint of a looming presence in the room.
Absolutely. So I think there's what is the best practice and what is legally required. And
Okay.
best practice is that the individual remove themselves from the room so that there isn't even an opportunity for a member of the public to argue that by their presence in the room, they were somehow influencing the Board of Health and its decision making. So for your own protection, it's safest if you step into the hall and then another board member comes and gets you when the next agenda item comes up. From a legal standpoint, if a meeting is open to the public, you could technically sit where the members of the public are sitting. So you would get up from, the table where all the other Board of Health members are and sit in the public. and you wouldn't be able to like interrupt, or, you know, they shouldn't call on you if they're not calling on other members of the public. It gets a little bit gray. So that's why I think best practice really is to remove yourself. But if you absolutely want to stay, there is a legal way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
The last thing I'll mention before we move on to the next exemption is if you do file this exemption, we would advise before you participate that you reference it. You say, you know, I'm going to participate in this matter. I had a conflict. I got approval of the select board, so that everyone knows that your participation is allowed. All right. The next one is section 19B3, and you may already be triggering this exception in some situations and not aware of it, but you are permitted to act on a determination of general policy and provided that the interest, so if you have a financial interest, like you're requiring everyone in town to stop watering between certain hours, that's going to impact everyone's lawn. Everyone arguably has a financial interest, but everyone in town has that same financial interest. And so the law allows you to participate in determinations of general policy. The critical thing there, though, is your financial interest has to be shared with a substantial segment of the population. And that's been defined as 10% of all residents in the municipality. So this is one that sometimes comes up. I'm not sure how frequently it would come up with the Board of Health, but you don't have to file anything. This is automatic. So it's not something that you need to take any action for. You know, when the select board may be acting on setting water rates, for example, their residents in town, that impacts them, but it also impacts a substantial segment of the population. So it's the same sort of analysis, and nothing needs to be filed. So those are our actual conflicts of interest. Like there is an actual conflict. The law says you cannot participate. But there are also times where there is not an actual conflict, but there might be a perceived conflict, something that would make someone say, what, or really, or they participated in that, that feels wrong. So, you know, anything where a reasonable person who has knowledge of the situation could reach a conclusion that you may be influenced to act, or another person may unduly enjoy your favor in the performance of your duty, those types of situations, you cannot participate in them unless you disclose the relationship. So if I'm a Board of Health member and my best friend in the world is coming before me with an application, members of the public may think that I'm going to act a specific way because of my relationship with my friend. So in that case, you can still participate, but there are some steps to take. So we want to kind of always think about who is coming in front of us, and would a reasonable person in this community conclude that I could be influenced based on my relationship with the applicant. And the exemption is a disclosure. So you file a disclosure to your appointing authority. So here, the select board, and all you have to do is disclose the relationship. So, you know, this is my best friend. Notwithstanding our relationship, I believe that I can still act impartially and in the best interests of the municipality. And all you have to do is file. It doesn't need to be approved like the 19B1 disclosure does by the select board. You just need to submit it to the select board. And then before participating in the matter, you want to disclose on the record for the minutes that you have this relationship with the individual, but notwithstanding that, you filed your disclosure and believe you can act impartially. You can always still recuse yourself. Recusal is always available to you, but you have this another ability as well. So if there's a perceived conflict, you can still participate, but you must file this disclosure first. All right. So I know I said I was just going to talk about 2, but I want to touch on section 17, you know, very, very quickly. This provision of the law says that you can't receive pay from anyone other than the town on a matter in which the town has a direct and substantial interest. So you can't be paid to be like a septic inspector if you're a community where septic permits are being issued by the Board of Health. So, you know, you just want to watch out for that, and you can't act as anyone else's agent. So these are just kind of 2 little things just wanted to mention, but we'll move forward. All right. So ethics laws are very difficult to understand sometimes. They are incredibly fact-specific analysis that we have to do when we're deciding whether the law has been triggered. And I don't expect individuals to always understand what they need to do, but they should understand that if there's red flags going up, they should reach out and ask about it. And the onus is on each individual member to comply with the law. And so if you have any questions, if you're like, you know what, I just don't know, maybe this is in the gray area, or maybe I might have a conflict, it's on you to call and seek help. So what do you do in Reading? You can always ask Aday or Matt. That can be level 1. You can always reach out to them. The law gives you the ability to contact town council. Any other time anyone in town wants to utilize my services, they need to go through Matt or another approved department head, but not for ethics law issues. You have a statutory right to talk to me, so you can always email or call me with your ethics questions. In addition, the State Ethics Commission has a hotline. They call it their Lawyer of the Day program, where you can call in and they will give you ethics advice. The ethics line is great. It is recorded in some way. They'll note that you called, they'll know what you asked about and the advice that was given. And sometimes they can be a little bit conservative. And so what I would advise is, especially if you have a sticky matter, to call me first. And sometimes my advice would be, you know what, let's call the commission together, or let's see if we can advocate for you in front of the commission to get a particular result. So especially if it's a tricky ethics issue, calling me first sometimes makes sense. But those are the 3 areas for assistance. You can talk to Matt or Aday, call me, or call the commission. All right. So I think I will take some questions if there are any. Aday circulated both the 19B1 disclosure form and the 23B3 disclosure form to all board members earlier this week. And, you know, if you ever think you have a Section 19 issue, an actual conflict, and you need to file that 19B1, you should probably check in with at least Aday, Matt, or myself to make sure it actually is an actual conflict and not just a perceived, because that process is pretty intense. Getting the select board to approve the relief is time. It takes some time. So it's good practice to make sure it's a real conflict before you go through that process. All right. Yeah, Kevin?
Yeah, I had a quick question. That was a great dovetail right into my question, actually. So a lot of times, here's a scenario. We got the packet yesterday. We noticed that now there's a conflict. Board's not meeting till next week. Effectively, we're not going to be able to talk in the meeting regardless.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because you're right. If it's an actual conflict of interest, so you're under Section 19, not perceived conflict, then you are precluded from participating unless the select board authorizes you, but that needs to occur before you participate. So it can be really tricky when, you know, you may not learn about a matter until 48 hours before. So that can be hard. In some cases, if the matter can be continued, that's the best practice to allow all board members to participate. But if not, sometimes, yes, it's difficult.
Yeah, okay.
So I provided this to Aday in a PDF version. He can circulate it so that you have my contact info after this meeting. And if you have questions that come up at any point, feel free to email or call. I'm happy to help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivrea. Good night.
Hey. So, Aday, do you want to, so this next item, this has obviously been a lot of discussion in town over the last month about this MBTA turnaround plan. Actually made the news, Channel 5 News. And we talked a little bit about it in our pre-board meeting. I think from my perspective, and then I'll have Aday speak about his thoughts. I think it's important for us to address the public health concerns that have come to us from residents regarding this, and to base our reaction in really the science of whether or not those concerns are, valid or not. And so there's a couple ways of doing it. Aday's explored them, and I'll just let Aday go ahead and speak to that.
Thanks, Dr. Lopez. Before I proceed, has everybody seen the drone video?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. So, as you all know, we have received multiple complaints about, potential health effects, health hazards from the proposed MBTA turnback track. Most of the complaints are directed to the Board of Health and the Health Department, and they are centered around, the health hazards that may be imposed on abutting residents, particularly the vulnerable population. So as a result of that, we reached out to the MBTA to inform them about, the potential health concerns. And we also, asked them to conduct a health impact assessment and an environmental impact assessment prior to commencement. And, it took a couple of days, and then we heard back from the MBTA, and they stated that they're not required to provide a health impact assessment or an environmental impact assessment. They said that the project does not require a MIPA review, neither does it meet or exceed the MIPA reviewed threshold that would trigger a health impact assessment or an environmental impact assessment.
Aday, you want to define MIPAP? What does that stand for?
Let me share my screen quickly. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
So MIPA is the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act Office. Right, let me see. Okay, and here's what the regulation says. The review threshold does not apply to unlawfully existing structure, facility or activity, routine maintenance, or a replacement project, which is what this is.
This is a routine maintenance project, is that what you're saying?
A replacement project. The tracks already exist. They're just replacing the tracks. So the health impact assessment or the environmental impact assessment will not apply.
But I think they're adding tracks, they're not replacing
No,
tracks.
there's no tracks there.
Yeah, they're adding them.
It says that they were previously existing.
Correct. So that's the law they're using. And it seems like, they have the authority to do so. So basically, what we are thinking is actually, trying to get a request for proposal, a request for quotes out there from to a reputable third-party health and environmental consulting firm to help the health department conduct a health impact assessment and also recommend strategies that best protect and promote the health of our residents with a primary focus, particularly on cumulative effects of prolonged diesel emissions and noise pollution on a vulnerable population. So they're going to look at the population in general, but there will be a special focus on how the emissions from the diesel engines and the noise affect the most vulnerable individuals in our community. So right now, I have a draft copy of the proposal. We're still working on it. I anticipate that by next week it will be out there. We'll get it to the purchasing department. We'll finalize it and put it out there.
Aday, what kind of, once an independent entity is agreed to and signed, how long do you think it would take to do this kind of assessment, this health assessment? My understanding, at least what I've read, is that the MBTA is planning to start this in April. So it's a fairly short turnaround time. And we'd also want the board, of course, we could always call an emergency meeting, but we would also want the board to be able to read a report and comment and discuss it before we took action. So do you think they could do that within a month?
Absolutely, between 3 to 5 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
But the goal will be to get the RFQ out there and have the bidding process started as soon as possible.
That's likely actually faster than if the MIPA office did it.
Absolutely, and MIPA is not going to do it anyways.
Right.
They don't have any reason to do it.
Right. Any comments, thoughts, suggestions, other ideas?
I just want to say, so after we do the audit or whatever, the evaluation, what would be the next step?
The next step will be to present the data, put it on the website, let the residents see for themselves what the recommendations are. There's a very high possibility that it will be, an indeterminate public health concern. I don't believe it's going to be an imminent public health hazard, but we'll see what happens. I'll let the subject matter experts take a look and tell us what they think.
So there's no guarantee on anything. It's just we're going to do the study and then see what they come up with.
We'll proceed based on the outcomes of the study, the assessment.
I would think that if the assessment, I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that if the assessment did show significant health hazards relating to either diesel fumes or noise or what have you, the town might have some opportunity to take this further in some kind of legal way, but I don't know.
So
That's what I'm thinking. The next step, exactly. Yeah.
So I don't believe so, because this has been litigated, and it appears that the state and the MBTA have close to absolute power, and they have bylaws don't even stand a chance. So regardless, I think they're going to do what they want to do, but I'm just hoping and praying that the assessment will come back and there won't be it won't be of high detriment or public health detriments to the residents. That's what I'm hoping.
So if I could make a couple of comments.
Sure.
You're basically right, 100% right, Dave. They could actually be down there working on it right now, not even notify us. They have the right to actually go in and just kind of do that. You know, the fact that they notified us is probably not a good idea for them, quite frankly. And I don't think they expected the pushback that they were going to get, because they showed up to the select board meeting very unprepared to answer any kind of question. Sal, I know, was there and can verify that.
Yeah.
But they basically have the right to come in and just do what they want. That said, there have been instances in the past where people have made enough noise that they have backed down from things that they can legally do. So, you know, if folks are out there listening, Lucas, I see you down there. If folks are out there listening, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak, in this one. In one of the things I'd like for our study to look at is low-level noises, which, as of right now, they know happen but can't prove. In other words, if you park this thing next to a bird sanctuary, what's it going to do to those birds with those low-level noises? So there are, it's 100% true and unproven. I'm going to say it that way so people are clear. It's true and unproven, but we should look into that. That would be a major contributing factor to where they're going to place it. Typically in the past with the MBTA, if you give them a better option, they're happy to take it. So again, if people are listening, make a lot of noise, try to come up with something that they haven't been able to peg themselves as an issue, like those low-level noises that these engines emit and the trains in general emit, that people on other stations here and have complained to the MBTA about. We should actually request how many times they've complained. They've had complaints about low-level noises of these running and idling trains. That's another contributing factor, again, to human ears, but certainly to that sanctuary that's going to be parked right next to, certainly. So I think those, you know, make sure that we have that on that person on those requests, that we want specifically to look into those complaints, and we want to look into if those are actual factors, and can we qualify them somehow, quantify them, excuse me, somehow.
Correct. So low-level noises and vibrations are added there in there.
Okay. And then the alternative is, again, if you can give them somewhere else to go and you make enough noise, they'll go somewhere else.
Carrie, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Ajay, for the research on this, and I'll just add in, I think, to Kevin's comments to just point out that the imminent health hazard threshold is quite high and quite specific. So we absolutely need to investigate all avenues, but as Ajay says, you know, the threshold is high and specific. We absolutely want to avoid that, and I very much join Ajay in hoping that the findings do not give any indication that there is an imminent health hazard. But that's a very specific bar. There are other areas, as Kevin was pointing out, you know, the issues about noise impact that are absolutely valid, but also would not qualify as an imminent health hazard. So I think it's important to understand the different ranges there, and maybe not focus too much on any one specific area. And that's my contribution.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? Okay. So hopefully, I suspect by our March meeting, this will be either coming to a conclusion or well underway. And, you know, given the time frame, it may require a very specific second meeting in March to review the findings, if it's not ready for the, you know, second Thursday in March. We'll have to see. we'll play it by ear. But we'll hopefully get on the fast track.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's move on to an update on pest control. Aday?
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lopez. As you all know, the health department is now under contract with Modern Pest Control to help mitigate the rodent problem the town is experiencing. The contract is based on the 21,000 funding availability that was reallocated from the ARPA funding. We were able to purchase and deploy about 15 smart boxes to different locations around town. So 21,000 is a lot of money, but when it comes to rodent control, it's not a lot of money. So the 15 boxes that we got, they're just like a fraction of what we need to actually have an effective rodent mitigation program. So I met with the experts and they advised that in order to have an effective rodent control program, we would need an additional 35 smart boxes, which would be 50 smart boxes in total. And I would like to go over that with the board. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
All right, so here's the cost breakdown. So we got 21,000 from the ARPA funding. So for each box, there is an initial cost, which is $200, and there is a $100 monthly maintenance charge per box. So we got 15 boxes. You know, if I break that down, we're looking at 200 times 15 for the initial cost, which is $3,000, and then $100 times 15 for 12 months, which is $18,000. So that's how we used up the $21,000 we got from the ARPA funding. Now, they recommend 50 boxes. So if we do the same calculation for 50 boxes, $200 initial cost and $100 monthly maintenance, we are looking at $200 times 50 initial cost, $10,000, and then $100 times 50 for 12 months, which is $60,000. So in total, we're looking at $70,000. So we are at $21,000 for 15 boxes. The experts are saying that we need 50 boxes, which will be $70,000. So the difference is $49,000, right? So I would have to go to town meeting to ask for additional funding. Now, the good thing about that is instead of asking for 49,000, I will only be asking for 35,000. And the reason is we're going to manage the 15 boxes that we have from January to April. That eliminates about $14,000 from the 49,000. And then, you know, I can get the additional 35 boxes starting from April to December, which would only be $35,000 in addition to the $21,000. But for next calendar year, which will be January 26 to December 26, I'm going to need the full amount, but I'm only going to be paying for the monthly maintenance because the initial cost would have already been paid, you know, in the 2025 calendar year. So the bottom line here is, yes, 15 boxes, that's a good start, but we're going to need additional boxes, which means we need additional funding. Now, what does the smart box do? All right. So essentially, this is what the smart box does. It's very simple. You know, the rats go in through here. They get lifted by an elevator that's built into the box. And then, you know, they receive an electric charge. And then once they receive an electric charge, they get dumped into the bin. And once they're dumped into the bin, the elevator goes back down and is ready for the next catch. So that's what the smart box does. It is very simple. And based on that, you know, based on the captures, the catches, a heat map is generated. Here's what the heat map looks like. So as you can see from the heat map, we are currently at 22 catches, right, since the deployment on January 17th. The bubbles, these bubbles that you see, represent the areas where the boxes are located, right? So if you click on each bubble, you can get the exact location of each box and individual catches per box. So this particular box is located at 355 Main Street, and it's an active site, and total catches 9. Now, this is the funny part of things. For board members that love to do site visits, you're gonna love this, okay? So each box is equipped with a tracking device, and you can click on the directions. And once you click on the directions, it gives you a step-by-step direction to get to the boxes, to each box. And if you're not happy with that, you can click on navigate. Same thing, it takes you directly to where the box is located. So this is a great tool. I'm loving it so far. Also, if you click on the total catches, and you click on download, it actually downloads an Excel spreadsheet, you know, and you can do a lot of things with the Excel spreadsheet. You can, you know, it tells you the number of catches per month. You can actually build a bar graph, a pie chart. You know, you can generate so many things. Whatever you need to do, you can do it. So this is a very great tool for rodent mitigation for the town of Reading. And if you go down to this rainbow colored legend over here, it shows the variations in activity level. So the areas that are like bluish green are areas of low to mild activity. Right there. And then the areas that are greenish yellow and orange right here, those are areas that are of moderate to high activity. Okay, so the good thing about the smart boxes is that they can be relocated from areas of low activity to areas of high activity. So based on this map, oh, you can also zoom in and out. So based on this map, you can see this area is of low activity at the moment. Let's click on it. Total catches 0. It is active, but you know, nothing is happening. So something like that, we can move the box somewhere else, you know, that we can get more catches. But I won't recommend moving anything at the moment because, you know, this is the winter time. You know, and we're still testing it out. So I think we should wait a little bit, let it get warmer. There, you know, we have more activities during the warm months compared to winter months. So right now, I wouldn't change anything. Ultimately, what we're looking to do is actually, you know, publish this data online somewhere. You know, we create Reading specific page solely dedicated to rodent control. The page would have this map on it. It would have, you know, the quantity of the captures by month. We're going to have bar graphs, pie charts, and, you know, you can tell what season has the most activity, what season has the less activity. We'll be able to do a lot of things with it. So that's my ultimate goal. And we're working on that at the moment. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But so far, I'm loving it, and I'm hoping that when we go to the select board in April, you know, I'll go to town meeting in April, we'll be able to get the additional funding needed to have a robust, you know, rodent mitigation plan for the town of Reading. Any questions?
Oh, Carrie, go ahead.
Thanks, Aday. I share your joy in these kinds of tools and capabilities they give us. It's pretty amazing. So the proposal would be then that we would require $49,000 for the current calendar year, and then we would be asking for $60,000 per year for some period of time. So that's my one, is sort of like, do we say how long, and how, you know, are we able to get a contract that would lock us in and not make us have to do price increases? But then I think the bigger question is, how are we defining success for this contract? How do we, is it 0 rat sightings? Is it, I'd love to, you know, when we think about spending dollars, sort of, well, what's the outcome that we're going to achieve for it, and what's achievable, and so forth. So
just to make it simple, the best way to measure this is if we don't get calls regarding, you know, rat sightings. That would be the best way to measure it, frankly. But again, you know, we can tell the quantity of captures, and you know, the problem is everywhere. So I think that you know, once this is implemented, we're going to see the quantity drop
Right.
within the town of Reading, and that'll be a great thing.
right. So, and if I can just follow on, I mean, I think that that's kind of where it's why I'm, so the problem's everywhere. And, you know, I don't know, if we get a new, say we get a new building in town and there's more dumpsters or so on, right? Are we going to need more boxes? And sort of, I'm just kind of figure out, is this an endpoint, or is this just a, you know, this is the right number based on the number of square miles we have in town, and this is what we'll work with?
Yeah, so don't forget that we already implemented the dumpster program as well.
Right.
So it's not just about catching the rats, it's about, you know, closing dumpsters and other things. So
Yep.
I think a combination of everything would really help with the rodent control program.
Good. So this is really about an integrated pest management plan, as opposed to a here's this solution we think will help. It's sort of addressing all of the possible contributing factors.
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions?
Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, David. It's certainly an interesting concept with these smart boxes. So kind of along the lines of the dovetail what Kerry was going on, I'm thinking the same line as you are, Kerry. You know, are these fixed boxes, or are they just kind of lying there?
So they're actually aesthetically pleasing compared to those other black.
No, I mean,
boxes.
are they fixed to a structure, to the ground?
Yeah, I was getting there.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, they are not fixed, but the good thing is, you know, they are equipped with GPS in them. So, you know, you can't really steal. It's like having air tags. You can't steal those things.
Gotcha. Okay,
If you do, you're gonna get caught, pretty
but
much.
that's part of the $100 per box maintenance if that becomes an issue anyways, correct? If they have
Correct, correct.
stolen, okay.
Yeah.
And we're able to put these on private residents. I noticed we have them down at
Okay,
private
you know what? Let's go in and see. Let's go in and see. So this one says Main Street Cafe Capri dumpster. So this is behind, I believe, a restaurant somewhere. Let's look at this one. This one says behind Valvoline dumpster, 369 Main Street. Let's look at this up here with no activity, 642 Main Street. Good Hurts dumpster, front entrance. This one has no activity either. Railroad tracks. Okay, just one activity.
So my question is, are we getting the permission from these private entities to put these there?
Yes,
Or is it part of our dumpster regs that I don't recall seeing it?
yes. So from my understanding, the Modern Pest goes in, talks to them, this is, we've been seeing a lot of rats in this area. This is what we want to do. And they get their permission to do it.
Okay. Do we have one down in the Pineville area?
Actually, I was thinking of moving these right here to the Pineville area.
Because I know, we had a lot of complaints, a lot of
Yeah.
activity from the perspective of what the folks are seeing down there that
Yeah,
live
so
down.
Pineville is right here. So I was thinking of moving a couple of those over here. But again, I want to see what's going on in these other areas first. I don't want to prematurely just move them. So I want to see what's going on. In terms of Pineville, things are looking great now. We've been going there almost every day, no issues whatsoever. So things are looking good. But if we're able to secure additional funding and additional boxes, I'm looking at putting a few at the Pineville location.
Okay. Did you say we had 15 of these?
15.
I only count 13.
So like this right here says 2.
Right.
So we're looking at 2 boxes. 1, 2.
Yeah, I counted those as 2. And the other one down here to the left is 2, bottom left.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
13.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
So just want to follow up with Bart and make sure that they placed all 15.
Oh,
Mhm.
this is,
Oh, there you go.
yeah. So that has no activity either. So
Is there one probably on North Main Street too? I'm guessing going further north.
mm,
Must be at least one more. Just want to make sure that we contracted out 15, that Martin placed 15.
yes, the 15.
So it's an interesting concept. I think, when it comes to rats, we've been fighting. You're always fighting an uphill. I don't say we, everybody is fighting an uphill battle when it comes to trying to mitigate, just because they reproduce so quickly that you take one off the table, but 4 more pop up, right? So that's always the problem. So I think while it's a good idea that you can move these around to areas to try to help out the public or the businesses that are affected in those areas, I think that's great. Did we also move off of having the program that we were previously under? Can you remind me? Where we were trying to mitigate their ability to reproduce? Was it
Well,
not working? Was there I know we had it. I just can't remember why we moved off of it today. Essentially, you remind me.
it is so the thing is you have to keep feeding them the birth control,
Right.
and then it wears out. So you just have to keep buying and when does it end?
Well, it's the same could be said here. That's why I bring up, was it not working? I'm just curious if we got if their feedback came back after a while, it's just like, it's not working. It's not.
Well,
doing
the liquid was drying up in the winter time. It was just drying up. We would go there and refill, and then it got to a point it just wasn't
Wasn't effective.
Yeah, it just wasn't worth it anymore. Like,
Okay.
yeah, and eventually with this movable smart boxes, we can actually coordinate with the DPW street openings and constructions and things like that. We can actually move them to the proximity of those constructions and street openings in real time to help with the mitigation efforts.
And I think in our regs, we require that now, correct? That in other words, if somebody's going to come open up the street, let's say it's to service gas lines, that they're going to have to be required to get one of these boxes, right? Or some kind of mitigation.
Well, it's not a requirement. I've had conversations, but the thing is that I don't want to hold up a process that's for another department. So for example, let's use building as an example. If you're trying to build, sorry, let's go back to the street opening. If they're trying to, National Grid is trying to do something, I don't want to hold them up because these projects, they've been applied for ahead of time. So I believe that DPW has a role to play in this. Once they get the application and all those things, we need to be informed. Or another thing I've suggested was for DPW itself to get their own rodent mitigation company that works with their schedule. I'll be for, the health department will be for the town, but when it comes to specific projects, I believe DPW should have their own pest management company coming out to help with mitigation efforts specific to those, those constructions. That's what I think should happen.
Okay.
So I think the idea that Aday had raised at, I think at the last meeting was, it's a concerted, integrated strategy of, this solution plus working with DPW plus more stringent dumpster regulations. It has to be a multi-front opportunity to try to, reduce the rat population. I think that the nice thing about this, and particularly if we have many more boxes, is the ability to really track the degree of infestation. And, I guess in my mind, success will be when we will probably never have zero, but we have a consistent, very low level of captures and accompanied by, less complaints or very few complaints around rat sightings. For people either on the board or the public who don't sort of haven't been following this, I mean, a couple years ago, we were dealing with poison baits in Washington Park. And there was concern about it being a risk to birds and dogs who might get in there or other animals. And we moved to ContraPest, which is the contraception solution. But again, that required staff to go out and check the boxes on a regular basis and refill things. And there was really less real-time ability to track how successful we were being. So we've come over the last 2 years from dangerous poisons in these traps that were laborious to track and keep up to a system that, as Aday pointed out, that is highly efficient. And I'm hopeful that it can help reduce. And I think I agree, we should get a box or two down to Pineville when it's appropriate to do so sooner rather than later as well. And the advantage of having up to 50 boxes is it gives you a lot more flexibility to move things around and address new hotspots and so forth.
Absolutely.
All right. there aren't any more comments or thoughts on that, we can move on to update on shared services, and Annette has been waiting patiently here. Hopefully we're keeping you interested, but I'll let Aday introduce and go from there.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lopez. As you all know, the Reading Health Department is in a shared services collaborative with the health departments of the towns of Andover, North Andover, Linfield, North Reading, and the city of Haverhill. Our shared services collaborative is called the Middlesex Essex Public Health Collaborative, which is a state action for public health excellence grant recipient that aims to improve the delivery of public health services across the region. Annette Garcia is the shared services coordinator. She's here tonight to give us an update on the progress so far. Annette, please feel free to introduce yourself and proceed with the update.
Great, thanks so much, Aday. So I'm happy to be back. I know it was a while ago, I think last August, that I was before the board, specifically to talk about our intermunicipal agreement that we were working on to help formalize our collaborative. But since then, a lot has happened. So I want to provide an update on some of what we've been working on, what we have coming up, because we have a few exciting projects that we're entering into, and then also to answer questions. So I do have a presentation that, let's see if I can share it. So I think you should all hopefully be seeing this now. So first up, if it lets me. There we go. So a little bit about what we've been doing since I was last here in August. So I didn't put it on here, but we did complete our intermunicipal agreement. We had all 6 of our communities, boards of health and select boards approve and sign that. So we're official. It's great. It gives us a little bit more governance structure. It outlines expectations for our shared staff as well as our participating municipalities. We also have hired 2 new positions. So we now have 4 staff members. It's myself, our part-time public health nurse, Leanne. We also have a full-time health inspector, Shanine Pierce. And then just in December, we had a full-time health communications specialist, Chandini Paul, join us. So it's great to have more people to do this important work. Some of the highlights, our public health nurse attended and supported 13 vaccination clinics this fall. So in September, October, and a little bit in November. And 3 of those were to help live here in Reading for some of those clinics. Our health inspector, who started with us in August, has done 185 inspections so far. I know in Reading, she helped out with some special events on the weekends. I forget which event it was. It was in September. I don't know if it was Reading Day or one of the other street fairs. She went out and did the temporary event food inspections for that. We've held a few trainings, but most recently we trained all the public health nurses in our collaborative to deliver opioid overdose response training for town members or community members. So they all participated in this training that taught them the principles of adult learning and then the content for this training. So that was a great initiative, and we're really happy that all of the nurses turned out. And we currently are hosting a working group of all of those who participated in the training to continue the conversation about how they want to implement that knowledge in the community. And they've been really productive conversations that we've been able to help facilitate, to share ideas and share resources to help bring that training to residents. We also, our communication specialist has been really great about providing some timely PSA templates for our communities. So you may have seen some of these on topics like neurovirus and avian flu. So she's been really effective at helping us and our municipalities increase their public communications on important health topics and making sure to stay up to date with those. So some great projects that we have coming up in the future. Some of you may have heard about the Foundational Public Health Services Review. This is an initiative from the State Health department for local health authorities to be looking at how they are meeting the foundational public health services. So I'll briefly explain what those are. They're a set of service areas and activities that are recognized on a national level for what an effective health department offers. So the state has taken on the task of really evaluating how well our health departments are meeting those service areas and our health partners. And so as the SSA, we're helping our communities complete that project. And in the future, I think it will be really important to help inform, legislature and help push for increased funding for health departments so that we can improve our capabilities of meeting the needs of our communities. So it's been a really great opportunity to kind of take a look at what we're doing as individual health departments, and then seeing how well our collaborative can help fill in some of the gaps to improve our ability to provide those services. We also are entering into a strategic planning process. So we just closed bids for a third-party vendor to help do a strategic plan for our collaborative, and we're hoping to begin that in March. This is going to be really critical for our group because within our request for proposals, we really ask for the vendor to help us identify what are our common goals and help us set up a pathway forward. So setting really specific and actionable goals for moving forward over the next 5 years of our collaborative to ensure that we have a common mission and some goalposts that we can set forward to make sure that we're making progress in what we want to accomplish. So by the end of this fiscal year, we should have that completed strategic plan. And I plan to bring that to all of the participating boards of health to kind of update you all on what we envision our future to be as we move forward as a collaborative. We're also focusing on a lot of tabling events this coming spring and summer. So we really want to get our name out there as a collaborative and be present within the communities. So we're looking for different health fairs or town day opportunities to set up tables and focus on a specific public health topic. So we've chosen sun safety as our topic. We were able to purchase a UV camera that helps show effectiveness of sunscreen and will show different sun damage as a way to kind of engage the public and really entice them to come speak with us more about sun safety. And while we have that touch point with the community, we can provide additional health information. So we're excited to start some of those opportunities and get to know the communities a little bit better. We also have some exciting trainings coming up for our environmental health staff and public health nurses. So we're working to develop a foodborne investigation training for all of our health inspectors to better understand how communities respond when there are foodborne illness outbreaks. I'm also setting up some mock noise investigation trainings for our inspectors, so they'll have the opportunity to come out, use some of our shared equipment that we have for investigating noise complaints and get a little bit of hands-on training about how to conduct those investigations. And our public health nurses have been busy with CPR trainings, and we're also looking to engage them in the foodborne illness outbreak trainings because they play a crucial role in identifying, helping conduct the food histories to figure out where exactly exposure to a foodborne illness might have taken place. So it'll be a really great opportunity to bring a bunch of staff together towards a common training goal. And then just briefly to look at our spending and some of our funding. So these numbers were pulled when I did our Q2 update with the Collaboratives Advisory Board. So they're accurate from July 1st through the end of the calendar year, December 31st. So our total award was $532,000. Up to the end of the 2024, we had spent $194,000. We're on target to be really good in our spending and spending down all of our funds, particularly because we have the strategic planning process, which is going to be a very large sum of money. So, that's definitely good. We want to make sure that we're not leaving any funds on the table. Certainly salaries always make up a huge chunk of our spending, but we've also been able to assist in technology We're covering subscription for our communities for Food Code Pro and Housing Code Pro. So we have all of our communities using the same inspection software, which has really helped facilitate ensuring that, you know, inspectors, regardless of community, are conducting inspections in the same way. We've also been able to look at some of the data to help identify if there are certain areas food establishments need increased education on, so that we can help fill that role. And then training is also a really large portion. Not only do we facilitate those group trainings, but we've also been able to pay for other training. So I know we were able to send some running staff to MHOA, help with different membership fees and outside trainings, anything hosted by like MHOA or MIHA. We're able to support all of those requests, which has been great. We've definitely seen an increased number of the local inspectors getting certain credentials like their REHS or Title V certifications. So I think that's been a huge benefit of this grant, is being able to help facilitate and support that professional development for local staff. So those are the highlights, but I just want to open it up if there are any questions for me or comments.
Looks like great progress. It's terrific.
That's tremendous.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been busy. It's been great to have more staff on board. For a long time, it was really just me and the public health nurse. So we're excited to have the inspector and the communication staff on board as well.
Yes, I would like to mention that when we were down, you know, when we were short-staffed and we didn't have a public health nurse, the nurse from the shared services was very helpful to our town. So I'm really appreciative of that. So thank you very much, Annette.
Kevin?
Real quick, and that just, can you remind me in regards to the grant that was awarded, is that a, when does that repeat, or is that just a one-time deal?
Yeah, so this funding, we signed a 3-year contract. So that goes through the fiscal year 2027.
Okay, and then we have to reapply at that point?
I don't think we have to reapply. It depends if there's additional funding available. So, you know, that's up in the air if this gets funded at the state and they're able to continue to fund it. We don't necessarily have to reapply for it. It just has to be available.
Okay, so there could be a point in time where all the towns are going to split the costs.
Yeah, so there could be potentially,
Okay.
it was written within our IMA that none of the communities are required to do that. It would be up to the individual communities if they wanted to contribute funds as a way to kind of, you know, plan for not having additional funding. Part of our strategic planning process is to look at alternative funding sources. So are there other grants out there that we can apply to help, you know, ensure sustainability outside of this current state funding?
Great, that was my next question. Thanks so much, Annette.
Yep.
Carrie?
Thanks. Sorry. Thanks, Annette. Sorry, a little background noise. Somebody forgot that I'm on a meeting. Thank you, Annette. Great presentation, great progress. I have a couple of questions for you. And as you know, and I think as others know, so I hold a similar position in another community to what Annette does. So here are my questions. How do you guys go about getting inspections assigned? Does a day just call and say, hey, we really have a need? Or does he have to do some planning? What happens if we get in a jam? Can he just call on demand?
Yeah, definitely. So we do it a few different ways. We have some communities who currently don't have any inspectors, so we provide more regular support. So they send us like 2 months worth of establishments that they want inspected, and we can go out and provide that support to help them make sure they're getting that minimum number of inspections. If emergencies come up, there's you know, foodborne illness complaint, or somebody is out for an unexpected amount of time, they can just call us and we're able to shift kind of those regular routine inspections to help prioritize. So we've developed like a standard operating procedure that helps establish expectations for how we're prioritizing the different inspection types. That really allows us to kind of shift for priorities and help respond when some communities maybe only need it in specific situations where there's an unexplained absence or an influx of complaints.
It's awesome. Great. That sounds great. And I'm glad to hear that. And I know, I mean, that's a huge value for us, for Reading to know that, the town does have that kind of backup available and that it's trained and, trained. We have a sort of a pre-vetting process already. We're not just relying on word of mouth or whatever. So that's excellent. In terms of training, I know one of the things that, one of the goals is about having all inspectors go through the food inspector training and the housing training. Housing training, to my knowledge, is not available quite yet, but I know food has been out. Is that something, do you have information on how many inspectors in the shared services area have been able to participate in that?
I don't have specific data. I always send out those opportunities. I know anecdotally, so our regional health inspector, as well as myself, have been fortunate enough to go through the food training. And I know anecdotally, some of the other inspectors have been able to get into those classes and complete the training. But it's certainly something I can go back and look at and make sure that we're tracking at the regional level to see how well they're getting into them. But I certainly do make sure to always, like as soon as we get the email, because they are competitive in the spots, I make sure to send it out to our regional inspector, our region and all the inspectors so that they can sign up as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I believe Amelia has completed the training as well.
Oh,
Yes,
good, awesome.
It's completed, excellent. Yeah, and then just so sort of knowing that our colleagues also are going through and getting that training, and that's so important because now everybody has a common understanding of what the regs are and what a proper inspection, how a inspection is properly conducted. So I'm glad to hear that's going well. And then I guess my last thing would be yay communications. That is a wonderful addition. It's really it's really valuable. I know Reading benefits from having some in-house communications folks, but they aren't necessarily public health oriented. So you say you have templates, do you build them kind of big, your person can build them based on hot public health topics, or can they build things on demand if, if different towns say, ooh, this is a real priority for us?
Yeah, definitely. We've done both. So she kind of looks seasonally or just keeping an eye on the news to see what's being talked about, what's, diseases are circulating a little more readily. But then we also have had municipalities that say, hey, we had this event take place. Can you write a PSA for us? And she's able to accommodate those requests as well. So we certainly try to preempt any of those by staying plugged into what's being spoken about. But then she's able to, support any of those specific requests that may come up kind of ad hoc.
That's awesome because it's the I'm sort of having a little flashback, and Kevin can relate to COVID and conversations we would have, and we'd kind of run through and we'd get all the way through and we'd figure stuff out, and then we're like, okay, and now we're going to figure out how to communicate it. And I've always been a big proponent of we've got to build that communication capacity into our planning and into our staffing. So this just makes me really happy that there is a resource available.
Yeah, and I actually forgot to mention, related to communications, we launched our regional website. So it's mephc.org. And so all of these templates and resources that we're creating live there. So our local health departments have a one-stop shop where they can go find any of these communication tools, social media images, any of our SOPs. They all are on that one spot for our local health departments to access, and they can find any updated, information that we provide right there. So thanks, Ade, for pulling that up.
That's wonderful, because I really hate recreating the wheel, and you know, it's sort of the, wait, we did a great graphic, or we did a great presentation on this, where is it, how do we, so this is great. This is really exciting, and I'm just so happy that our town has all of these resources. Y'all have done a lot of work. I
Thank
will
you.
say my community, we're in a different place with my communities. They're in a little different, different circumstances. Every shared services group is different, but so this is
Yeah.
really both personally, you know, personally, it's just interesting to see how it goes, but for Reading, yeah, these sound like excellent resources. Does it, how is your advisory board, does a day, how does that work? Is it a day or and all staff, or just anybody? How does that go?
Yeah, so we meet monthly and we have one voting representative from each community. So a day sits on it. I think they're all, the health directors are the representatives that we have currently. They are public meetings, so you know, anybody's welcome to hop on to them. A lot of times our regional staff will sit on them, especially if they're reporting on something that they've been working on. We don't typically have the other local inspectors and nurses don't typically come to them. But we do hold regular inspector subcommittee and public health nurse subcommittee meetings. So that's kind of how we're having that regular touch point with our local staff to help engage them, you know, work on some specific projects. And what we found really beneficial is it's kind of just a place for the, you know, nurses and inspectors to talk to their colleagues about weird situations that might come up. You know, I know Amelia brought something really great to our last meeting. She had a weird, was it a weird body art question that had come up? And so she was able to kind of like brainstorm and hear from her colleagues' experiences across municipalities. So that's been a really great way that we've been able to facilitate information sharing across, and you know, just experience sharing across the municipalities.
That's even, I mean, so having not just administratively, but also operationally, having that kind of connectedness, that's great.
And
Right.
speaking of communication, Dr. Lopez and I and Matt, we're actually trying to work together to create a Facebook page for the health department, you know, specifically for the health department, because we don't have a way to directly reach out to staff, you know, and sorry, to the residents. So we're trying to create that, and we're just waiting for, you know, Matt, the town manager, to approve it, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Ned, I had two items, and I'm not sure if they were a request or a thought or a question. So one has to do with community health needs assessment. So we underwent a process last year and the year before, and in coming up with a community health needs assessment, and you know, we came up with several goals and some objectives. I'm wondering whether other towns in the collaborative have done the same thing, number one, and with respect to that, whether as you go through your strategic planning process, whether you can think about incorporating those kinds of work, those pieces of work into what the collaborative is doing. So for instance, if 3 of the towns, you know, have done assessments and they all have these 2 same objective or goals, then maybe the collaborative ought to, you know, pick up a bigger, you know, make that a focus, not only for those towns, but for the whole collaborative, in an effort to kind of move things along. Not to mention encouraging other towns, you know, towns in the collaborative to have their own needs assessment. Somehow, you know, these local assessments are very much informed by what's happening on the ground, and somehow having the collaborative take advantage of that and help promote, you know, solutions and move those would be a great idea as you think about strategy.
Yeah, definitely. Most of our communities have completed their own local needs assessments, so that's good that they do exist out there for most of the communities. And we have looked at them as as collaborative staff to help inform our activities and priorities, to help cross over. I don't think we've done it as intentionally as you're speaking about yet, in terms of like really being able to make sure that we're taking those concrete objective and action items and incorporating them, but I think it's super important so we can make sure that it's part of the strategic planning process, that we're looking at all of those documents and finding where they most cross over to leverage that shared resource, and help kind of meet everybody's goal at one time.
Great, great. The other thing was just, in terms of public health foundational sort of standards, and I know that I guess DPH did a piece of work last year collecting data from boards of health departments across the state and coming up with some data, comparing them in terms of meeting certain standards. And this may be too work intensive, I'm not sure, but at some point in the future, I think what could be helpful for the towns would be to have the collaborative produce comparative data, maybe for the 6 towns and then the state, not the other 344 towns, but just collectively, here are our 6 towns, and this is the statewide average, high, low, or whatever, for whatever data is available out there. Because one of the things we always try to, at least I always try to think of is, we're in a little bit of a cocoon here on the Board of Health, but how are we doing, and what are the areas that we should be, more focused on in terms of meeting public health standards that we're not. And so the collaborative might have a role in producing that data on a more regular and frequent basis.
Carrie, did you want to say something?
Sorry, it's like I'm going to explode. I know. Sorry. Well, I was kind of looking to see if I could pull up the dashboard. I didn't know if you had it, Annette, because there is data available for what you're referring to, Rick, is the capacity assessment. And you can see we don't have the data at the individual community level, because this isn't about individual communities. The shared services collaboratives exist to improve all the towns, right? But yeah, there is some, and I know Annette and I are both going to have to be out doing more presentations later this year about the info for the foundational public health services in the collaborative as well. So, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fine. I can certainly, so I just was able to pull up the dashboard that Carrie is talking about. So I will share my screen quickly.
And while she's doing that, I'll say my speech is always this: you're going to see a percentage, and the percentage is how close are we to the bare minimum, right? That, people get excited and say, hey, we've got a 78, that's a high C, that's great. No, this is just the bare minimum. And I think that's important to underscore. We want everybody at 100%.
So I'm trying to look here. So this is this like first step that you were talking about, Dr. Lopez, of the initial kind of capacity assessment the state did with these groups to look at how well we're meeting what they called the performance standards. So these were responsibilities that by Massachusetts laws and regulations and federal laws and regulations health departments were required to meet. So these were things like performing disease investigations, conducting inspections for different items, teams. And so we all reported, or all the health departments reported data on how well they're able to meet those different performance standards. And so the state, using all of that data, created this dashboard where you can look at by your shared service arrangement, how well you were meeting those performance standards. So I was trying to find ours in this list. And for some reason, I'm just not seeing it.
You know what, Annette?
Right,
Go
to
over
the,
to
to, go to the right.
Yeah, go to the right-hand side and use the just type in the name of the municipality. Not all the names are properly entered. So yeah, if you just enter
Perfect, okay.
municipality.
So we'll look up Reading.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
We should be in the
No,
80s.
and overall, our group was in a really good place.
Yeah, we should be in the 80s, I believe. Let's see.
So how come it's not?
Yeah, I can't read the letters are small, so I don't know what it says. What does it say? Town of North Andover, right? It's just that it hasn't been updated to reflect the name of the arrangement. It's just showing the host community. So there
So you
we
can
go.
see, yeah, so overall, our group was 85% meeting the standards, which, you know, we're in a really good place, especially compared to a lot of the state when it came to meeting these requirements. A lot of our health departments are well-resourced. We have, you know, very professional and trained, experienced staff that are able to meet these requirements. So, you know, this was a super helpful process. It did help us kind of identify some areas right off the bat that we could improve. So we worked on improving some order letter language, some inspection reports to kind of, you know, get that last 15% in meeting these standards. And so when it comes to the foundational public health services, I believe the state has similar plans to kind of aggregate the data that's provided and allow us to look at the state level and shared service arrangement level, how well we're meeting those foundational public health services. Additionally, built into the tool that we're using, we get some like initial summary data for our community. So that's certainly something that I can come back and present to the board so we can kind of look, you know, both Reading and then across the region, what our municipalities reported in terms of their ability to currently meet those foundational public health service areas.
Great. It's good that the state is doing a big piece of this. That's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And just one last question. I know that the grant funding that we have is from the state as well as federal government. And with the current, you know, grant freezing that, you know, we've been experiencing, how is this collaborative going to be affected?
That's a great question. I have spoken to our program coordinator, so they're kind of our connection to the state that we work with, and asked what they're anticipating the impact to be. And they unfortunately don't have a clear answer right now as to what the final impact is going to be. They expect that we won't see any impact in this current fiscal year in terms of our current funding, is what I was told. They gave the caveat that things might change, but as of right now, it doesn't appear that there's going to be any impact. You know, the good news is because we are partially state funded, if there is federal funding taken away, we at least do have some state funding to draw back on. And, you know, they'll provide us updates as available. And Carrie, you have, I don't know if you have more up-to-date information than me.
No, I'll just add that I think that these programs are at a advantage as compared to others because we have the dollars in hand, right? We have received the dollars. They're certainly always potentially subject to clawback, depending on the source, but we have received them. There are some programs that only receive funding, they invoice, they deliver services, and then they provide an invoice, and then they receive payment. And those programs are have a more significant exposure, risk exposure than this does. But yeah, I know the same as Annette, right? We know that we have dollars in hand right now. We know that dollars were committed. We also know that it is an uncertain funding environment in general.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Annette. Appreciate your time and good news all along.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to coming back again soon.
Thank you.
Great work.
Thanks, Annette. Good work.
Yeah, thanks, Nat.
Okay, Dave, do you want to move on to
Absolutely. Let's get this meeting over
Yeah.
over with. All right, so here is a draft copy of the Feeding of Wildlife Regulation. You know, we created this draft regulation based on, you know, a complaint that we received, and we figured out that, you know, we didn't have any bylaw or regulation that addresses, you know, feeding of wildlife within the town of Reading. So this is just a draft copy. I see, you know, a couple of typos that we're going to fix later on. It's you know, it's a draft copy. It's not a big deal at this point. We thought about presenting it as a bylaw, but we decided to go via the Board of Health regulation route to save time. We know that if we go through the, you know, bylaw process, it's probably going to take 6 to 9 months to get it done. So we decided to go via the Board of Health regulation route, which is faster. So essentially, this regulation prohibits the feeding of wildlife in Reading, with some exceptions. You know, feed that is deposited by natural vegetation or as a result of agricultural or gardening practice are not considered feeding for the purpose of these regulations. The person responsible for the premises where the problem with wildlife feeding occurs, would be notified in writing. We'll also issue, you know, violation notices if we have to. Any individual or corporation that is licensed or entitled under the law to possess wildlife of any kind is exempt from this regulation. And also, you know, failure to comply with the regulation may result in a fine of $50 first offense, $100 second offense, and $150 for additional offenses. So again, this is just you know, a draft copy for review, and I anticipate that we would have a finalized copy at a subsequent meeting for the board to vote on. So did everybody get a chance to read it? Would you like to make any recommendations or amendments or changes?
Kevin?
I'll just make one a day because legal's going to do it anyway. Paragraph 2 of 26.3. Just move the whole paragraph under 26.4 for exemptions. It's cleaner that way.
Okay.
Legal's going to do it anyway, so.
Yeah, so sorry, say that again, 26.3, paragraph.
Paragraph 2, feed
of
as
this,
deposited. The whole paragraph should fall under 26.4 exemptions.
Okay, sounds good.
That's the only recommendation I had on it. Otherwise, it looks great.
Perfect. And I'd like to thank Amelia for helping out with this as well. So.
Yeah, I think it looks great too. I mean, it has everything, and I was concerned about bird feeders, and I see you included that as an exception. And you know, I think it's important because feeding wildlife, although it's well intended and we all love animals, you know, it does promote the potential for injury. They're vectors for certain diseases. And they really can be a health hazard in this kind of environment.
Yeah,
Any
and
other
just-
comments or suggestions for a day?
I just wanted to speak in regards to the board. I don't know if the homeowner is going to be able to be here for public comment this evening or not, but I've been in touch with one of the complainants. Has had a tough time where there's been neighbor across the street has been feeding wild turkeys. And what ended up happening is they end up all on complainant's property and defecating all over their property and their belongings, their cars and what have you, and turned into quite a nuisance, not to the point where sometimes there's so many of them, they can't, they're fighting them away to get in their front door. So just as one example of where this would be very effective, even though the person is aware of this, who continues to feed them, it would be great to have a mechanism to get them to stop doing that on behalf of another resident who shouldn't have to deal with such things. So.
Right. Yep. Speaking of turkeys, I read a couple weeks ago that, and I mentioned this to Aday, that in Edgartown on Martha's Vineyard, they discovered 20 dead turkeys, and I have a summer home down there, so and the issue there is they're testing them for avian flu. And it's it's a classic example of, you have a lot of wildlife and they bring diseases. So, this neighbor with all these turkeys, if develop an avian epidemic amongst bird life in the town, then there are much more risks. So that's just beyond the causing a mess on the lawn, there's some other real hazards as well.
Today, if everything goes well, when do you see us able to make a vote on a final proposal?
Probably at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
A day monthly update.
Oh, okay. And I just wanted to bring this up. So we have this flyer on both websites, on the Board of Health website and the Health Department website, regarding the bird flu outbreak, and we also sent this to each resident that has a keeping of animals permit with the town. So they also have this information. They know where to report any illness or mass casualties. They know where to report it to. They know who to call. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. All right. In terms of monthly report, I believe I'll let Amelia go first, and then Liv is not here today, so I'll do that part.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Okay. I'm assuming everyone is able to see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so January was a little bit of a slower month for me with inspections. This month I've actually been gearing up back on the field, which has been exciting as I love doing food inspections. So we had one late food permit renewal, which is fine, it happens. I did 4 food inspections that were scheduled for January. We had one complaint regarding a restroom with an establishment, which we ended up actually bumping them up a risk level. So we bumped them from a 2 to a 3, just because from the last inspection that I did, from the complaint we received, and just from another time that I was there was no active managerial control going on. So every time I went to the establishment and asked to speak to the manager or the person in charge, there was no one present to be that person. So Aday and I spoke with the district manager of that establishment. We talked through some of our concerns with her. She was very receptive to bumping up the establishment to just be more involved with them. And I actually did their inspection this month and it went really well. The manager was there. We were able to talk things through. We were able to get on a page where we were both in agreement. He was actually very thankful that we were able to go through some issues that occurred education-wise, communication-wise. So, I'm really hoping that we can get them on a good track and bump them back down to their type 2 risk. Kind of, touching base on where that complaint stood and where that had gone. We did one temporary permit, which was for a wrestling match at the high school that occurred on January 20th for the junior varsity wrestling team. I did one body art inspection last month. Everything went well, everything was good. We had 2 complaints, one being an issue with snow salt in a parking lot, which was rectified at the time that I was out there. And then another issue that complaint that we received with a house that we are monitoring and we are working on. At the time that I went out there were no violations present, so that was a plus. But we do have them on our radar, and we continue to hopefully rectify anything that comes up in the future. And our issue is getting contact with the owner. We've sent, order to correct letters, warning tickets. I've left flyers. I've left my business cards, my Liv's business cards. Our main thing is getting in contact, which is what we're struggling with, but we're hoping that soon we'll be able to get in contact and we'll be able to talk through with some of the issues that are being presented to us.
We also did a wellness check, remember?
Yes, absolutely. So we actually did conduct, I apologize. We did conduct a wellness check as well with sorry, I wanted to make sure I didn't get out of Zoom. We did call dispatch to conduct a wellness check to ensure that the resident was safe in their home, which they were. They were responsive to the wellness check, so that was a plus. They're just not responsive with us. So we're really hoping to get to that level with them. I did the tanning inspection at Planet Fitness, which everything looked great, checked out well. The manager that I walked around with was super knowledgeable with tanning, the regulations and what's expected. They don't promote it, which is awesome. So that was that. We did a reinspection, Ade and I, at 1051 Main Street, which I know we talked about in our last Board of Health meeting. So we did that back in January, which was after our last meeting. And I know that that is something we will address back in the spring, so I don't want to really talk much about that. We did have a complaint with one of our nursing facilities. Ade and I did go out there. We got a complaint regarding no hot water that was being used on the residents. So the residents were being bathed in cold water, and the kitchen staff had to resort to styrofoam and plastic equipment, obviously, as their hot water supply was not operational. When Ade and I did go out there, we spoke to the manager at the time, who is no longer there. They are in new management, and a heating technician did come out, rectified the issue. Fire also had gone out. National Grid had been out. There's a couple things going on with that establishment, but they're being worked on. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more to that. But Ade and I did go out there, and the issues that were complained to us regarding the hot water and the use of the styrofoam utensils were rectified once we were out at the establishment. We did get one call regarding pest sightings. So my goal is to, every time that we do receive a complaint with that, we keep an Excel sheet with the address that someone is complaining about. And I would like to add it to our monthly reports as well, so we can also keep track of where people, or how many calls we're getting regarding pest sightings. And then I was able to do both of the pools at the YMCA, which also turned out to be great and well in working order. And the Y is actually very good with keeping up with their pools, which I was very impressed. They do a lot of water testing a day. I believe they do it 4 times a day, every day. So they were well. And that was that for the month of January for me. So not too much going on, but always something going on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So in terms of nursing updates, the influenza cases in January, we had 63 confirmed cases. The COVID cases were down dramatically, only 2 cases in January. Other communicable diseases have stayed constant, pretty much negligible. A couple of foodborne illnesses and little to no vector-borne diseases. I see flu shots are still available for individuals 65 plus. Please call 781-942-6656 to schedule your flu shot. We're going to have blood pressure screenings at Frank Tanner Drive on February 20th, 2025, and also at the Pleasant Street Center on March 5th, 2025. We have a free hearing screening coming up on February 18th at the library from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. For some reason, we're not too many people haven't signed up this time around. Last year, we had to have like 3 sessions because they kept on getting filled and filled. So I'm not sure what's going on, and I'm hoping that you know, our new Facebook page would help us get this information out there. We'll actually have you know, our own followers that can subscribe to Health Department news and you know, be in contact with us. Let's see what else. We have the mammography van coming in April. This is a program that we want to keep. It's been a success so far, and we just want to keep doing it. So we don't have a specific date in April. It looks like it's going to be towards the end of April, but it's good to keep the residents informed and, you know, to let them know that we're going to be having this van back, and they can, you know, adjust their plans accordingly. So we started the diabetic supplies donation, and that has been going very well. And Liv had a great idea based on the success of that. She had a great idea to do medical supplies take back, and this has been going well as well. So we're really happy about that. If you have you know, medical supplies that are unused, that are unexpired, diabetic supplies that are unused or, you know, unexpired, all you have to do is call, you know, 781-942-6656. That's the number to the public health nurse. Call to schedule the donation, and you know, we'll hand it over to the appropriate hands. So with our diabetic supplies, we usually donate them to Life USA, and with the medical supplies, we donate them to Lowell Humane Society. You know, these programs are, they're going really well. We're happy. I'm glad that Liv is here with us. You know, things are going well. No complaints. Let's see what else. Oh, and this is Liv's idea as well with the shared services. So we're collaborating with the shared services and the library to come up with the hands-only CPR class. This is scheduled for March 20th and also April 17th. So we're not going to be issuing any, you know, certificates. It's just a hands-only CPR class. So feel free to join us, you know, anytime. So March 20th and April 17th. Let's see, what else do we have? And I would just like to remind the residents that, you know, we're in February. This is the American Heart Month. Take care of yourselves, you know, live a healthy lifestyle, do some exercise, eat properly, and yeah, and everybody's gonna be fine. All right, I'll hand it over to Dr. Lopez.
Great, thank you, Ade. So now we come to our public comment section. I see one individual, Lucas Prato. Lucas, do you want to make any comments to the board? Oh, there you are.
Yep, sure.
Thank you for being patient.
Yep.
The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, thank you all. All these town meetings that I've started to attend since the MBTA situation, I now realize all that you guys put in and appreciate all the effort. Just wanted to backtrack to a day's reading of the law and what the project is. They are putting in new track. There used to be track there back in the 60s or 70s, but it was removed. So as far as I'm concerned, once again, a lawyer should look at I think it's NOI and the law, like have your legal counsel look at it, but please don't back down. That's all I ask. It sounded like you guys aren't, but please don't back down. Because like I think I heard earlier tonight, some people think the MBTA for some reason doesn't have to report to anybody. It just is mind blowing to me so far. So I just want to keep it short, simple. So I know you guys had a long meeting, but Kevin has my information. He's been a great coach for my daughter for years for soccer. But I will throw the invite to, if you guys want to listen to myself and or some of our others in our group, we'd be willing to meet at the town hall or the library and give you more information into the situation that is unfortunately been forced upon us by the MBTA. And the biggest key, which I think you guys have heard so far, the MBTA has tried to sneak this through the Conservation Commission. And I am the second to closest to where they plan to idle the actual locomotive. And it's not even just the idling. It's also the slow moving trains back and forth all day long from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So once again, I don't want to hold you guys up, but feel free to reach out to me and we can set up a meeting to get as much information that we have dug up in the past 3 to 4 weeks and get you that information. We'd be more than happy.
Thank you, Mr. Prado.
Yep.
Thanks,
Again, I think that the independent consultant may want to have such a meeting to get that kind of input as part of their overall assessment.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any final comments, thoughts, suggestions? Not hearing any, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Sal. Okay, roll call. Sal,
Yes.
Carrie, Kevin,
Yes.
Joan, and Rick. And I would just say that Carrie and Joan both voted affirmative on mute.
Yes,
For
yes,
AI in case.
that's
Yes.
right. Yes.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right.
Um,
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.